Welcome to the Girls Who Waited, the Geek Girl YouTube show about Doctor Who and more. We are at GenerationWho in Hunt Valley, Maryland. I'm your host, Angela, and I am joined by...
Lee. I am the manager for Pixar.
I'm Drew. I'm a podcaster and videocaster. Hi.
So this is actually our first live show at a convention. We've never done any. My fantastic co-host, Lil, could not make it here this weekend, so kind of sad. We miss her. Hi, Lil. I miss you. But okay, so our episode for today is going to be talking about Doctor Who over the last 10 years. Thursday was the 10th year anniversary of the new series, since it started back. So we're going to talk about the good, the bad, what we're surprised about, and stuff like that. So we're just going to open it up and start down there with you, Drew.
What's the question? I'm sorry.
It's just Doctor Who over the last 10 years. Are you amazed that it's gotten this big, or?
Yeah, actually I am. I am amazed that it's gotten this big. Anybody who's been involved in any kind of fandom will know that while fandoms have existed, especially in the United States, the only thing that was really kind of concretized in any kind of organization really was Star Wars and Star Trek. And I don't know if we can thank or blame the Lord of the Rings trilogy of movies and the Harry Potter series, but certainly it has become certainly a lot more acceptable to be into fantasy and science fiction as mainstream, something that wasn't quite what was going on, especially when I was a kid. But the fact that Doctor Who is essentially the most popular non-sports, non-reality show that exists on the entire planet, that's pretty impressive. I'm happy about it, but I think it's very cool.
Yeah, being geek chic is like the new thing. It's very mainstream now, which is really interesting. Like you can walk around and find like little black glasses on everything. Like they put the little quote unquote dorky glasses on a whole bunch of products now.
It's so nice to not have to walk into like a Target or a Walmart and go to the boys section and buy the boys extra large shirts of Doctor Who or comics or whatever, because it is so popular now. They're making it for girls. I worked at a comic shop for 10 years and trying to find geeky shirts for work, I had to wear little boys stuff. It was really amusing. So
meanwhile, I have to go to Walmart and go to the girls section just to that kid.
No, I'm really amazed at how the show's just taken off. I mean, it's completely jumped the pond. I mean, it was definitely just like a British, show, and the people who watched it here were people who had PBS, who actually got the actual episodes, and even then it was a very cult favorite. There weren't a lot of Americans who were watching the show at the time. Yeah. So
and even when it started, though, it wasn't broadcast over here. Sci-Fi later got it. So
that was
weird. Yeah, Sci-Fi was playing Doctor Who right at first. They replayed all of Eccleston stuff because BBC America wasn't really a big broadcast thing for cable. So
yeah, that's interesting. I think it actually has brought BBC America more to the forefront.
Oh, and I think BBC America is very well aware of that.
Yes.
Too.
Yeah. They're like, we're going to ride that a bit. Yeah.
I think that the cross between something where you have to, as a fan, either wait for the DVDs to be imported over to the United States or downloaded illegally off of the internet, to being able to, if you're in a major metropolitan city, see Doctor Who on billboards and on the sides of buses in 5 years or less. That's really impressive. That's a kind of quite an amazing feat. And there's a lot that you can contribute to that too. Certainly Doctor Who hit all the right notes.
Yeah, and there's like a number of hotels now that carry BBC America. That was not the case.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
I think it's pretty interesting that that's been the change. But yeah, it's been good, and it actually brought a whole bunch of new fans and like younger fans, and I remember there was a little bit of like people wanted Doctor Who back, but they wanted like the classic sort of Doctor Who back. So I know like initially there was a little bit of like pushback on the revamp, and then everybody watching became obsessed with it, so it was fun. Yeah.
So we talked about how we were excited about it. What do you think are is there anything bad about it all? Do you think there are any, like there's people from Classic Who that were like, oh no, rickety young doctors.
Oh, I mean just in general, what things, no, and here's the thing, when you have a television program that's been around for 50 years, it's changed dramatically. I mean, if you don't like the first Eccleston season or Tennant season or Matt Smith season or Capaldi season, but you like one or two of the seasons in Classic, I mean, you just wait a couple of years, and it's a show about change. So if there's something you don't like about it, go watch that part of it.
Well, even all through a season, it's
Oh, yeah.
changing as
Yeah.
you go along. Because I know this past season, I heard a lot of people going, "Oh, I don't like the stories," blah blah blah. I'm like, there's certain ones that are not my favorite, but there are some in there that are really awesome. And you're sitting here and you're saying, "Oh, I watched the first two. I really don't want to watch the rest because blah blah." I'm like, watch the rest of them. They get, there's different types of writing styles. There's different types of stuff that people like. So.
Yeah, and I think too, I think that just kind of comes with the territory. It's 50 years. I mean, eventually, it's a little hard to continuously write original script that's going to please everybody. You're not going to get necessarily universal acceptance off the bat on every single storyline. Yeah, so I mean, I think the only thing that I don't know, plot holes. Is that a thing I don't like about the new season, New Who, is that many of the plot holes are unexplained, dangling storylines that never quite get tied up.
Yeah, certainly. I think that's a brain, so many panels.
Yeah.
I think it's a valid argument that that can be something. One of the things that I think it's interesting is that Doctor Who, certainly the format has changed. You have serialized format in the classic, but we have to fit to American, or not American, but modern audiences. And so this is a show that can go anywhere and do anything, and it throws a lot at us, and that doesn't always get wrapped up. I am not the average viewer. No one who is at this convention is the average viewer. And I think we pay a lot more attention to that show. And the show is made by people like us, but it isn't really made for us. Because in order for a television program to succeed, you have to appease the majority. Well, you have to appease your masters in broadcasting, but you have to appease the majority. So with dangling plot points, I don't think it's something that everyone is going to notice as much as we do. It drives me up a wall.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think I can see where it's at least forgivable. So, I mean, the show in its history has retconned itself so many times.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Yeah, I saw a quote, I can't remember where I saw it from, but it was like, being a geek means that all the details matter.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think I can forgive some of but just some of the plot holes are just so large, or just, like, we went with one storyline and then we completely switched over into something different and we're never revisiting that again, is my sort of peeve about the New Who. But otherwise I love it, and then a lot of times I'm like, I don't even care, it's fine. It's fine. They may revisit it later, but it's fine.
Okay, so we're gonna go now back to the good stuff. So, doctors, out of all the New Who doctors, your favorite, your least favorite?
As far as favorites, whatever Doctor I'm watching, that's the one I love. And I have right now, my favorite Doctor of all time is Tom Baker. I can't help it. That
No way, I never would have guessed.
No.
By your shirt.
But it's every time I rewatch Doctor Who, I love it more. With the exception of, I think, 3 stories. I will go back and watch them, and I get this absolute joy. Even stories I've seen 50 or more times, every time I watch those, it's really quite amazing. So I think I couldn't ever decide on a favorite. It's just so much fun to be a part of it, even as a viewer.
I do have a favorite.
Yeah.
I'm a Tennant person, and I'm a Tennant person mainly because the way he played the Doctor was, and this is also why some other people don't like him, but it was a little bit more humanizing. I felt like he was the Doctor you could relate a little bit more to as a fan, because he actually looked like he had emotions. I think that was my thing. But Capaldi's a close second, and I like Capaldi because he kind of calls back to some of the classic. He has the classic mannerisms. He's somewhat slapstick, and he kind of has this way about him that it's like you just don't know if the companion's gonna survive. It's sort of like may or not make it through this episode. He may or may not care if they make it, sort of thing. So it's kind of it's fun actually to kind of see. Yeah.
I have been loving Capaldi. I adore that man so much. It was really like I enjoy watching all of the new Doctors and their stories, but so far, none of the newer ones really kind of stuck with me, and I was like, oh my gosh. Like, I was sad to see them leave, like anyone else is, because they built that up, and they make it very emotional. But I was very excited for Capaldi. I was excited to have an older Doctor again. So I think out of the new ones, he's probably my favorite, and he's just so brilliant in the part.
Yes.
He is. Well, I think one of the things that's really exceptional about Capaldi is he is an actor. I'm not saying that any of the other, certainly they're all very established actors, but Capaldi really is an established actor who's been doing this much longer than, obviously he's the oldest person to play the Doctor on the television show. And you can see it in everything. There are things that Matt Smith does better than any other Doctor. There are things that David Tennant does better than any other Doctor. But as far as just out and out ability to emote and to show expression in his face and to absorb the scenery and take part in everything, Capaldi's the man. He really is quite amazing. And I haven't been this excited to see next week's episode as I had with Series 8. Series 8 really had me on the edge of the seat, really excited, and I felt it kind of, and not only because I loved every episode, certainly there are episodes I did not like, but it kept me going, I didn't like that, but I can't wait to see what they do next.
Yeah.
And that a lot of that has to do with the man himself.
I think that was the thing about Capaldi. I loved season 8, but season 7, it was a little hard for me to accept him as a Doctor. I think I kept looking at him as the actor. I kept seeing Capaldi, and he's on a show now. Like, I didn't see him as the Doctor, and it probably took me the full season 7 to really go, okay, yeah, now he's the Doctor. But I think because he has that background, and it's interesting because I accepted the other regenerations a lot quicker, and I don't know if it's because I didn't know any of the other actors, that I could just accept this new role. But Capaldi, I just see him in everything he's been in. Like, I see him as Torchwood, I see him in, like, Musketeers, that sort of thing. So it was a little harder to kind of do that. And he always plays a bad guy in a lot of other shows, so it was a little hard for me to accept him as
or he's
the
cussing
Doctor.
like a sailor.
Yes, exactly. I was like, where's all your cuss words? What happened? Like,
Have either of you seen, it's a movie from the early 80s called The Lair of the White Worm?
I think you told me about
it's
this.
Hugh Grant and Peter Capaldi, and it's based off of a Bram Stoker novel, and it's this really very trippy, they're kind of out in the moors in England, and it's a vampire demon psychosexual. It's pretty bizarre, but that was my first Capaldi thing I ever saw. And when he was announced, I'm like, that's the guy from that movie, So yeah, he also won an Academy Award, which is really cool.
yes.
So, and that's it. I knew his work prior to it. It's like I knew the name sounds familiar.
Okay, so we've talked about Doctors. Now we have to, of course, move over to companions. So favorite. Let's start with favorite. Out of all the new companions.
Out of all of them.
I think, especially with one more series at least to go, Jenna Coleman could become my favorite companion. But right now, I gotta say Donna Noble, for whatever reason, still has kind of like wedged her way into my heart and will not let go. And every time I start thinking about the companions, I keep on turning to Donna. And there's wonderful things about every one of the companions. I'm a huge fan of all of them. I used to think that I didn't like Rose, and I recently went back in preparation for the 10th anniversary and watched the entire the Eccleston run, and she's phenomenal. She's really good. She's a great character. But I think for me, it's got to be Donna Noble.
Yeah, I'm actually in the same boat. I think I love Tennant, but she was the first companion that wasn't swoony. And I actually appreciate that. And it was more the companion as a friendship. And she was the first to really represent that without it, at least from the new Whovian. That didn't have this like underlying tension where one companion loves the Doctor and the Doctor loves that companion but can't say anything, and then another one is, pining after him. So I appreciate the fact that she just had that fun banter, and it was just two best friends actually traveling around. But I also, really close second, I gotta say, Amy and Rory as a unit. I think if I could combine the two into like this like chimera, like that would be my second companion. Yeah, I'm all for the three of them, the power of three sort of thing.
Yeah, I love Donna. Absolutely adore Donna. And I'm an Amy and Rory type of person. I love Jenna Coleman as Clara. Like, she is, like, Jenna Coleman is such a strong actress that it's just, it really shows. And her chemistry with Capaldi right now is what's making it for me. Yeah. Like, I am so excited for Series 9 just because, like, first, the titles of some of the episodes they've actually released sound fantastic. And I'm not going to spoil any of those. But I'm just excited what they have them do more, especially after Last Christmas, where you're like, okay.
I thought she was going. No,
yeah, no, okay, awesome.
Yeah.
So I'm also, I like some of the more comedic companions too. So I do love Captain Jack, and anyone that has ever watched this show knows just I adore Captain Jack. John Barrowman is just super funny, and it was nice to get a guy in the TARDIS, but one that wasn't like Mickey, where it was kind of like he was just the guy that was there and he was getting stomped on. So it was.
Though I will say, in Mickey's defense, Mickey as a character is one of the. I think Jenna Coleman certainly has done this, but Mickey, I think, was the first character in New Who whose character really had a definitive character arc. When you see him in Rose, he is a coward. He is very immature, and they give him over time a really good arc, which I don't feel was completely forced. I think it may have been a little rushed towards the end because they didn't utilize him as much, and they were very cruel to him. And one of the reasons that I think
10 dog.
He was, and I think part of the reason that I have sometimes like Tennant is not always my favorite. Tennant Rose is they're rather abusive to Mickey, in the same way that I feel in many ways that Amy was abusive to Rory in the first kind of appearances. I think if you had a man treating a woman, in the relationship that way, would not have flown, would not have been allowed. So yes.
Yeah. Okay. So then we've done our favorites. So what would you say? It doesn't even have to be that you did not like them. It could just be
evolution of the Daleks. The evolution of the dogs two-parter. Really did not like that story. Sorry, just didn't. Can't watch it. I rewatched New Who over and over again.
I can't do The Forest. I'm blanking on the name now.
In the Forest of the Night?
Yes.
The new one?
Yeah. I love the kids. I loved probably a good chunk of it, but the ending made I just could not piecemeal that together in my head. Like, I was just like, what? Where did the sister come from? Why is she, suddenly a bush and now she's a human? Has she been there the whole time? And if so, why was she hiding? It didn't make any sense to me. It was just I felt like they tried to tie it up with a pretty bow, and said, well, we'll make her transform into this and be done, and then that's it, and never really explain it. So
I feel the same way with you on that one.
Yeah, it was like, what's with the ending? That just, no, yeah.
It was really fun to see Capaldi interact with kids, though.
Yes, that was the thing. It's the ending that did it, that kind of sank that one for me. But the rest of it was fantastic.
I think that's a very interesting episode because it deals with magical realism in Doctor Who, which is not something it almost by its very definition, Doctor Who is not science fiction but science fantasy. You'd think that magical realism is something that would go hand in hand. And Frank Cottrell Boyce, who wrote it, who is a YA and young writer, writer for a young audience, I think there are a lot of elements in that story that could have worked very, very well. Yeah. It just in the end, it just didn't.
Yeah.
It just didn't. I think it came very close to being a superb episode.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder what they cut out of the episode that may have.
I don't know if
it's
I'm really looking forward to listening to a commentary or reading reviews about that and seeing, maybe a couple of years down the line when people aren't trying to defend it so much, because it's the only story. I mean, I've heard a lot of negative things about a lot, but that's almost one I've heard almost universally derided. And a couple of years down the line, maybe some production people will say, hey, you know what? We came really close. We changed something. Maybe we shouldn't have done that. We're sorry, but yeah, I think that was for me the low point in those series of stories.
Yeah,
I didn't hate it.
Yeah, I didn't hate it. It's just the ending. Yeah, it's kind of like did the tree people bring them back Like, did they transport?
There's a lot of stuff that can go with, but I will say one thing about this, and you both touched on it. This is a story where the low point was not the fact that there were children in it.
Yeah.
And frequently when you have kids on a Doctor Who story, it doesn't always work.
Or they're very creepy.
Or they're
Or they're very creepy. They're like wearing a gas mask, or they're carrying a red balloon, or something. They always kind of make the children creepy.
Or talking like this, like Chloe Weber.
Yeah.
Which I love Fear Her, by the way. Absolutely adore that episode. But yeah, the children were great.
That was a nice change, especially after some of the ones that we had seen
Yeah.
before, where we were just kind of like, they just totally had to have kids. They just made the adult characters kids to make it work, and they made them very annoying.
I think Nightmare in Silver.
Yes, that's actually what I'm referring to.
Yeah, I think part of the problem with Nightmare in Silver, one is I don't know if Stephen Moffat was necessarily paying attention. He was writing his own stuff and maybe not paying attention.
Supposedly he told Gaiman that he had to put kids in there.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
I think part of why I have a negative feeling towards that episode, one, because I don't think it was particularly good, was I expected so much more from Neil Gaiman, and that is on me. That's not his fault. That's on me for expecting, like, really holding up to a high standard and getting what could probably be, with a couple of tweaks, a fairly decent episode. The other thing I have a problem with it is I just don't feel like we've treated the Cybermen well recently, or almost at all in New Who. The way I think the Cybermen, what was really cool about them, and that's a totally different panel on how to make the Cybermen great again. But But as far as low points, that certainly in recent memory, I definitely disliked those two stories in particular. I mean, you can go in and talk about other things like a lack of diversity in New Who, or plot holes, or the way female characters are or are not represented. Certainly there are really good arguments for that being a case for low points in the show as well, or racial diversity, but on the whole, we have these problems because we actually care and we're paying attention to it. So that's not necessarily a bad thing, all told.
Okay, so we've gone over somewhat. Is there anything you want to add? 'Cause I'm going to go beyond.
Please, no, please.
Okay, I was making sure there was nothing you guys wanted to add before I just kind of went beyond. You were like, I really want to talk about this.
If I suddenly remember something I really disliked, I will shout and let you know.
That works. So we've had this last 10 years through Eccleston through Series 8. What are you guys kind of hoping for or thinking we might see in Series 9? Because they've given a little bit of details of, at least, like, we'll see one character again.
Yeah.
Which a bunch of people, everyone then screamed and was silenced at once.
Yes, yeah. I love that character is coming back. I don't know if I don't want to spoil it, so I'm not going to say.
Well, I mean, have you all seen Series 8?
No. Okay.
No, okay.
Then never mind.
There's one character.
There's one character who's coming back that's fantastic.
That supposedly went away at the end of Series 8. So.
Yeah, but I'm excited for them to kind of work a little bit more on Clara. I think for me, Clara was a character that I loved her as Souffle Girl. I loved her as, like, the first Victorian version of herself. And then they kind of just dropped her character. Like, she just didn't have much. Like, her first season on Who, and I don't know, maybe it also wasn't like they didn't gel. She didn't gel as well with Matt Smith, or there was that thing where I don't like where there's that tension. And then all of a sudden they finally fully explained why she was involved in all of that. But I kind of feel like they had an end point, and then they couldn't figure out what to do in between that. So she got better with season 8. But I kind of liked for them to stay away from her being a pseudo-doctor. I think that was my thing. Like, I'm starting to appreciate her character a little bit more. I think she's grown into the role. She's much better with Capaldi as a matchup. They have a much better relationship and banter. But they really pushed her as being another pseudo sort of doctor. And I didn't like, I was like, no, you're a companion. For me, there's a distinct line. There's a companion, and there's a doctor, and then and the only exception is maybe Alex Kingston. So, yeah. It's River Salt. She's the one who can kind of do both, yeah.
I understand certainly one of the things that I'm looking forward to most in Series 9 is the Doctor that we saw at the end of Series 8 and in the Christmas special. I think, to steal a line from Matt Smith's Doctor, I think he's finished cooking. I think we have our Doctor, and we have a relatively cemented relationship between the Doctor and the companion. And I'm really looking forward to seeing where they take that next. Series 8 was very much about Clara and her story. And I think what became kind of obvious is that with Series 7B, the last half of Series 7, Clara was essentially a plot contrivance. There were very...
That's like every single one of her stories.
Yeah, it's true, but there's very Clara-like aspects, like, that she shows. Like, her character is there, but because the stories aren't about her, her actions seem a little out of place. And once Series 8 comes along and they start focusing on her a little bit more properly, she's a well-rounded character. You don't get well-rounded characters in television a lot of the time. I mean, even the Doctor is not necessarily well-rounded because, you know, with each new Doctor, they change a little bit. That certain core Doctorness is there, but there's a challenge. And sometimes we don't have our companions long enough to really appreciate them. Rory and Amy, for instance, I do like them, but I like them best in the first part of Series 7, when they cemented they truly became a couple, and we got to see them as a couple as opposed to a weird love triangle. Like, Rory and Amy as a couple, it is, I agree with you, one of my favorite companions. I think they do a really good job with that, but it wasn't like that for us. I want to see this Capaldi continue forward. I also want to see him play a musical instrument. That isn't a recorder. Capaldi, as an actual human being, knows how to play an instrument. I think it would be great if they traveled in maybe to the past, you saw an electric guitar and just jammed on it. I think that would be really kind of utilize your actor's skills as well as your characters.
I would love to see Gallifrey too.
That I don't want to see.
You don't?
I really don't. No.
You like that mystery.
Yes.
Bit in the back of his head. Like...
Yeah, and I can see the appeal of Gallifrey. I really can. I can see the appeal. I think that was one of the best things that Russell T Davies did was remove the Doctor from Gallifrey as it definitely showed us as this kind of lone character that makes him really special. But the quest for Gallifrey, I would like to see him actively. I like to see him actively looking for it, but I kind of don't want to see him find it. And it's entirely personal preference. I think if maybe Capaldi leaves and Moffat leaves, maybe that would be a good ending point for their story arc. Would be maybe Gallifrey's found, new showrunner could maybe do something with it, or if they find it, I don't want it to become the main focus of the stories.
I mean, the thing is, the Time Lords aren't, even in the classic series, they aren't the nicest race, actually. Which is interesting. I mean, there's a reason why the Doctor left Gallifrey in the first place. So I'm not, I mean, I just think it'd be interesting to go looking for it. And then if they should find it, just kind of to see how he's changed as a Time Lord compared to the other people who stayed on the planet, sort of thing. Because he's become very, first of all, he loves Earth, but he's also become very human in a lot of ways, which is very different from the Time Lords who are very detached from a lot of things. Like, they're kind of, I don't want to say, they're not like bored per se, but they don't really, they're very focused on one thing, and it's to protect, the concept of time and space, and they don't really care about anything else outside of that.
Well, we got to look at Gallifrey with the
movie,
painting, and that was really cool. It was kind of nice to go, oh right, that still exists.
Yes.
And here's something about it, and it was portrayed kind of like the classic show with a new twist, and that's really nice. It was a good taste.
Yeah.
But I'm afraid that if we get Gallifrey, then that will have to be the focus. And maybe that's not a bad thing. I mean, I'm saying that there's part of me is anxious about that because I think it might not be good, but all it takes is a good writer and a good showrunner, and maybe the Doctor back on Gallifrey could be the best the show's been in 20-something years. Who knows? Who's to say? But
It'd be really cool to see if he had a human companion with him and how they're like, oh, this is why you act the way you do sometimes.
Yeah, they're like, oh, it makes sense now.
Oh yeah. Well, and if they decided to, for instance, go with some of the continuity from Big Finish or the books, and they could bring Sophie Aldred back, who doesn't look like she has aged a day since 1989.
And after her actions at the panel yesterday, she is full of energy.
Spry is a good way. Yeah,
if no one actually saw, this was fantastic. There was a panel at GenerationWho yesterday, and I'm saying that for the viewers that may forget where we're at. The panelist asked Sophie Aldred to explain her character Ace to people who may have not seen Classic Who, and she goes, okay, and jumps up, runs into the audience, takes a cosplayer's Ace jacket, puts it on, goes, oh, the Doctor! Runs over, takes one of the 7th Doctor's cosplayer's umbrellas, runs over, sees a cameraman, and goes, a Dalek! And starts acting like she's hitting the cameraman, and then jumps up onto the stage, jumps up onto the table, jumps off, grabs her water bottle, crawls under the table, and goes, Nitro! And throws it. And goes, boom! And then, what else did she do? I'm trying to remember.
She said, that was Ace.
Yeah, and then she's like, that was Ace.
Yeah.
So it was completely fantastic. Basically, she did an interpretive dance of what her character would be. And it was fantastic. And just watching it is just being like, oh my gosh, did she really play this character that many years ago? It's like she just filmed all that for the show right there. That's Ace. Yeah. So I would love to see her back as Ace if they ever did anything where we get to see where they expanded it in Big Finish.
Oh, sure. I mean, and that's one of the things that kind of going back with the 10th anniversary, not only do we get Doctor Who back, but with the return of Liz Sladen, which really is a high point in that kind of the marriage of classic and modern Who. Getting the Sarah Jane Adventures, which I have not seen all of.
They are fantastic.
Yeah. I know. It's on my list. But with the fact that they were bringing older female companions back onto that show, it's a shame that show didn't continue along that same path, because that would have been a really great gateway into these are the classic companions, bringing them in there and potentially bringing them into Doctor Who proper.
Okay, so let me check the time first to make sure that we are good. We have like 10 more minutes. Woot! Okay, so I'm actually going to go back to where we were talking about what we're wanting out of season, like we were expecting out of season 9, and you said you were really excited for that character. I remember seeing that when they announced it, there was this one person on like Deviant or whatever that did a fan sketch, and it was basically Clara taking the Doctor by the legs, and that character is sitting there like this, and Clara's like jumped up in the air with the Doctor like she's about to slam him into the character. And I was just like, oh my gosh. This is fantastic, because it was basically, if that character comes back and is in the TARDIS, this is what Clara should do to them, right there. So, but I'm kind of just happy that we're not going to see Clara's love interest as much anymore, because that's...
We don't know that.
Well, we don't know that, but I will say the Christmas special was my favorite interactions with Danny Pink altogether. Like that's
Absolutely.
how I really feel that story should have been. I was so excited. We were getting a male character with a female character. They were both teachers at Coal Hill. They were going to be in the TARDIS. It was going to be fantastic. We were even possibly going to get another student, and it was just going to be like Hartnell's years, and it's gonna be amazing. And then we didn't get that, and I was very sad, because I was like, they're throwing it back to Classic Who, and we're gonna get that, and and then they just kind of were really mean to his character.
They do that. Yeah. Boyfriends get a short shrift in that show. That's true. Actually, one of the things that it's kind of fun to think about the caretaker in a way, because with that episode they really did harken back to the very first episode, because with a few tweaks, for those of you who haven't watched Series 8, there's an episode called The Caretaker, and it in many ways could have been a good pilot introduction to the new show, with it as an homage to the classic era. If you're a classic fan, you may really like that episode. You also may really not like that episode because you're a classic fan. And I know it seems kind of ambiguous about that, but we're Doctor Who fans. Things that you think we're going to love, sometimes if it just rubs us the wrong way, it can really kind of get that ire started. But yeah, that episode in particular could have set us up for something pretty cool.
That episode would have been fantastic too if they had brought one headmaster in there. Such a waste.
Sorry, we're being vague.
Yeah, we're trying
not to spoil anything for anyone
so
in
it
the
ends up being
audience.
vague. Actually, it was funny. I had a bunch of people who came over, and it was another convention, but I was like, come on over, we're gonna watch Who. There was actually 2 people in the group who had not seen Who, but that were there for the party. And we're like, okay, here's the only rule. You cannot talk. Absolutely not. We'll answer questions during breaks only, and that was it. But they watched Listen, and it literally, that was the episode that they went, ooh, I might have to start watching Doctor Who. This is kind of interesting. So I found it fascinating that certain episodes do appeal to a general audience and can pull them into the rest of the...
I kind of wish we saw cosplayers walking around the hallway with just the sheet over them.
I kind of joke
Easiest Doctor Who costume ever.
I kind of joke that we should like hide it in like the 12th Doctor console room, like print, like have a little like red blanketed person somewhere in that.
I'm kind of curious as far as the 10 years go.
Mm-hmm.
What your guys' favorite episodes were? I think because I feel like I've both gushed about an episode and really given the thumbs down to an episode, but with 10 years, that's a lot. There's over 100 episodes to look at. And not 10 seasons, but there's 10 years of it. Do you guys have any particular like favorite episodes that you think really stood out for you?
I adore the Christmas specials.
Yeah.
Like that I'm so excited every year just because that's become a big Christmas tradition now. It's like you do all the stuff with the family and then you sit down and no one's allowed to speak to you from 9 p.m. to 10 p.m. because you're watching the Christmas special. And most likely you will be in tears by the end of the Christmas special and your family will walk down and be like, what is wrong with you? Because they just don't understand. But yeah, I'm such a huge fan of all the Christmas specials. All of them. It's really hard for me to say I dislike one. Well, there's one that I dislike over most of them, but I still like it. So.
Do you have a favorite Christmas special?
Oh gosh, all of them now. That's a really hard thing to say though, because I love them all, and there's reasons why I love them all. It's just I group them all together, the Christmas specials.
Into one.
Yes, into one massive Christmas special.
The Christmas Carol, this Matt Smith's first Christmas special, still ranks in my top 10 favorite just New Who episodes, just hands down. I love that episode. I absolutely love it. And I actually get teary-eyed about it. I can't watch them as much as I watch the other ones because it's Christmassy. It feels like there's a time to watch it. And like, if it's like, I can't watch a Christmas special, say, in the summer. I don't think it would
You
work
don't agree
for
with
me.
the Christmas songs in October? Like,
No, oh, absolutely. No, I would absolutely do that. But, I don't know. I like to set the mood. There's something about it, like, if I'm wearing shorts, maybe that's not the best time for me to
You
be
watch
watching
the
Christmas.
Easter specials then.
can-
They had Easter specials.
I can,
with
and yeah, the Easter specials.
flying alien things that'll eat you in the sand. That's so Eastery.
Yeah.
That's so
There
Eastery.
is. It's a movie in Easter.
Maybe they were hiding eggs and you had to go find the eggs. That makes a little bit more like
That would have been a
Easter.
very interesting plot twist in that episode.
Yeah.
They were,
The aliens laid eggs. They had to find the eggs in order to go. Yeah.
especially when we were dealing with fly people, because they lay eggs a lot.
I think for me it was Tennant's my favorite. So if I'm gonna have to go Tennant, I would say his last episode because it made me cry. I just couldn't. With the fact they brought back all the companions, I was like, I just can't. And they're all flying the ship. I was like, okay. But honestly, my all-time favorite is the Van Gogh episode.
Another one that'll make you cry.
It is a standalone piece that if you are not a Doctor Who fan, you would still greatly appreciate, and it would still make you bawl like a baby. I probably watched that episode 50 times. I know what's going to happen every single time, and darn it, am I not always grabbing the tissues? Like you feel the heartbeat throughout the entire episode, and I think that was what was so compelling about it. And Tony Curran, who plays the character, he was just so amazing at it. He played that character. You could tell he was really struggling with his disease, and he was, just crazed by it, but yet he was a genius from it, and wouldn't it be wonderful to think that he would know how much he's appreciated now, you know.
I have a friend that was actually one of the first ones we showed him because he was an art teacher, and we worked on him all school year. We were like, okay, we need to get you to watch Doctor Who. And the other teacher that was helping me do this, I got her to watch Doctor Who the summer before. So she's like, yes, you need to watch Doctor Who. And I'm like, we'll show you the Van Gogh episode. We'll show you that one. And afterwards he was like, I need to see more. Like, he's like, I want to see if I can like show this to my art class. I really just want to show this episode to my art class now. And I was like, oh my gosh, that'd be kind of fantastic.
That really would be
yeah.
That it's an appropriate thing to show in schools. I don't think, well, you know, that's the beauty of Doctor Who. The violence is very rarely violent.
Yeah.
The sex is very rarely mentioned, and you know, no profanity is actually said in English. So it's good. It's, you know, it's supposed to be a family show.
Yeah, and then actually in that episode, the set. I mean, that'd be great for an art class because whoever dressed the set, it looks just like the actual paintings.
Yeah.
They did a really good job.
They did a very good job with that one. What was I going to say about that one? Oh, it's the only show I've ever watched Doctor Who, episode of Doctor Who I've ever watched with my parents. My parents who are divorced got together with me when I first bought my house with my wife and for Christmas. And I said, what do you want to watch? I'm like, I want to watch a Doctor Who Christmas episode. And they're like, okay. And my wife's like, how about Van Gogh instead? So we watched that, and it was good. I don't think anyone cried. It's a little weird. I don't think I can get that emotional around my family, but...
You're choking your back. You're like...
My father just looks at me like, really?
No, I'm too busy...
Tears are running down my eyes for some of these episodes.
I'm too busy waiting for my father to say something relatively inappropriate during the episodes, but he was actually quiet. I think he is an artist, and so Vincent and Theo, which is kind of where they got the title, is one of his favorite movies, and so I think he had some appreciation for it. And he's like, "Are they all like this?" I'm like, "No, they're not." He goes, "Oh, okay." Well, I got one out of him. So.
Yes.
Well, I actually think that is all the time that we have because we got 2 more minutes, so we can close up the show. So, are there any closing comments you guys would like to add for 10 years of Doctor Who, or?
I wouldn't be surprised if it lasted another 10 years. I really, the way it's going, well, maybe not 10. I wouldn't be surprised if it lasts another 7 seasons. Doctor Who's really going strong. It's more popular than it's ever been. It has more fans, more viewers. It's been seen in more countries. I mean, when was the last time you had a world tour for the premiere of a television program? You know, it's something monumental. It could potentially run for a total of 26 series. I mean, it could match the classic season. I don't think Doctor Who is ever going to go away, like, permanently. I think we may have another, I can't remember what the official term is, extended cancellation or something along those, a respite, if you will. But yeah, I think it's going strong. I think it would have to do a lot to make it stop.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's going to do that.
No. I think that between the fan base from the classics and then growing into the fan base of the new Who, there's just... I'm just excited for the fact that it's going to be going on for quite a long time.
I mean, the amount of people at this convention alone kind of shows that.
I mean, the fact there are conventions that are just Who-based.
Yeah, it's big enough to sustain its own convention circuit. I mean, and Region's not the only one. There's 3 or 4 other... There's more than 4.
More than that.
Yeah.
Big ones on the East Coast alone. So we've got Florida, New York, Chicago, and the Mid-Atlantic, and then a really popular one in California.
Yeah.
As far as
the
big ones are
yeah.
concerned,
Yeah.
and with the popularity of those actors now kind of coming over to the United States, it's becoming commercially viable.
Yeah.
But support your local conventions, folks.
Yes.
Yes.
Conventions are always fun. Even like the smaller conventions are always fantastic too. So you should definitely look into those. Even if you're like, oh, not sure, go for a day, support them, and then you'll be like, oh wow, this is amazing. There's my people, fan base. It's awesome. So, well, thank you guys for sitting in the audience and watching our first live broadcast at a convention, and thank you guys for watching at home. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.